All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's wonderful to see you all virtually, and I hope you all are staying healthy and safe. My name is Katie Brenly, and I'm a Ph.D. student studying special education and disability leadership at VCU, and I'm also the chair of the Student Leadership Council in the School of Education. I'll be the moderator for today's virtual town hall with Dean Daire. And before we begin, I ask that everyone to please keep their microphones muted. This will make it easier for everyone to hear Dean Daire and each other clearly throughout our conversation today. A few other things once we get started. A quick disclaimer that today's virtual town hall is being recorded so that all those who have missed the meeting can watch it back. And the recording will be emailed to students and posted on social media as well. If you have a question, feel free to use the raise your hand feature. Then we will call on you in turn, so be ready for that. You may also submit your questions directly in the chat area for me to pose to the dean. And finally, if you have a question that you wanted to ask anonymously, you're welcome to send me your chat privately in the chat box as well. Meredith Mello and Corey Humphrey, who are both in the School of Education's Alumni and Student Engagement Office, are both here to help things run smoothly so that you may see their names pop up in the chat throughout the town hall. The purpose of today's virtual town hall is to check in with my fellow students and to give you all the chance to ask questions you may have for Dean Daire during this uncertain time. So Dean Daire, it's great to see you. How are you holding up?
Doing well, Katie. I like to start things with appreciations, and definitely want to appreciate you and Meredith and Corey and all the folks who are involved in this town hall. I'm always excited to have the opportunity to connect with students, and I know we usually do this face to face, but obviously things are different now. I joke that I saw a meme with Medea saying, where she's holding a gun saying, if I hear the word unprecedented one more time. And so I always think about that because it really is unprecedented times, but I know that phrase gets overused. The Daire household, we're dealing with, kind of the similar issue. Some of the same challenges. My son is a student at VCU. He's a second semester freshman, so that's been an adjustment for him with remote instruction. And I ask him questions. What's your faculty members doing? And I'm sure similar to you all, he's got some that are doing things one way and some that are doing things a totally different way, and he has to adjust to all the different ways things are happening. So I'm sure that's similar to you all. I have a daughter who's a senior in high school, and that's been a challenge because she's not going to have a prom this year and not going to have a graduation, and so we're dealing with all of that. But one bit of good news, she applied to a number of colleges, like 13, God bless her, and she got into all the ones she applied to. But 2 days ago, she went online and did her acceptance and did the deposit for VCU. So I'm real excited that I'm going to have two Rams. So I might as well just go ahead and do payroll deduction for that one. It's also been interesting just for me personally, because I had Achilles surgery on March 2nd, and I was out for a week. And then the following week was when things were ramping up with COVID-19, and then we went remote, and the surgery was on my right foot. So I've kind of been homebound during all of this COVID-19. I've had 3, surgery follow-up appointments, and outside of going to the grocery store for the first time on Saturday, that's the only time I've left the house. So it's been kind of weird, going to the grocery store and seeing everything that I'm seeing on the news. It was just a bit surreal. So it really is, kind of odd times. But I'm excited about this opportunity to be able to connect with you all. I've sent some emails out to the students. I know there's been a number of emails from the university. But definitely wanted to have this opportunity to connect with you all, to be able to do my best to address questions. I may not have all the answers. I know we have some other folks on the call, Dr. Diane Simon, who's our Associate Dean for Student Affairs and Inclusive Excellence, and Dr. Donna Gibson, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, and I know Jewel Davis, our Student Services Director, and so if I can't answer questions, I've got some capable folks here that can answer some of these questions. In thinking about this town hall and some of the planning we were doing, Corey asked me a question that just kind of really stopped and caused me to pause, which was, what's your goal of the town hall? And I really was like, wow, I was so excited to like have a town hall that I didn't really think about, well, what's the goal, but then, as I really reflected on that, there are really three things that, that I want to share, three things that I want you all to know. The first one is that I want you all to know that we understand. We understand that these are, that this is an unexpected and significant disruption, and not just a disruption to how your class is delivered. I mean, that's probably the smallest of the disruptions for some of you all. You might have lost a job, or a family member lost a job, and you're dealing with reduced income in your household. You're concerned not only about your physical health, but the physical health of your loved ones. A lot of folks are very concerned about their aging parents and grandparents and how they're doing. And, particularly if you've got family in hotspots. I was talking with one of our home scholar students who's from New York, and, I mean, she's losing members of her church. That's a lot of stress, and you can't even get there to support folks or to give somebody a hug. And then we're obviously concerned about our own mental health and well-being, and concerned about the mental health and well-being of our loved ones. And so probably first and foremost, I want you all to know that we understand that this is a very, very tough time. The second thing is that we're here to help. We want you all to know that we're here to help, not just me, but our associate deans, department chairs, student services, graduate studies, faculty, of course, all the staff. We are here to help. We obviously want to help in terms of ensuring the smoothest academic continuity, particularly for your student learning. We, want you to know that we're here to help in terms of, addressing issues related to, your trajectory towards degree completion. And there are other things outside of that we want to be able to help. We may not have all of the answers or the solutions, right? But when folks are under a significant amount of stress, and I'm sure you all are at different levels of stress. There might be some who, fantastic coping, like this is fine. And if you're like me, where you're, probably bordering on being a little bit OCD, disruption like this is just not a comfortable thing. And then when you're trying to manage and bear the weight of additional challenges, even outside of the academic realm, we want, allow us to help carry some of that burden for you, right? Again, we may not have all the answers, we may not have all the solutions, but allow us to help partner and work with you to try to identify those. I'm going to ask Corey or Meredith to post in the chat a link. There are two links that the university have provided. One is if you're in need of assistance, right? And the other one is if you're aware of a fellow student that's in need of assistance. And so I see that Corey just posted that. So just, cut and paste that, put it in like a Word document on your desktop, just save it, right? You may not need it now, but just kind of have it there. If you talk to a colleague and they sound like they're in distress, or maybe they're just sounding different or withdrawn, don't be afraid to ask people how they're doing, and then reach out if you need assistance for yourself. And also, we're also gonna put up an email, SOE@vcu.edu. And that email is checked multiple times a day by my special assistant, Erin McClinton. And if you have any questions, again, help, we may not have all the answers and we may not have all the solutions, but we want to share in some of that burden that you might have in trying to figure in trying to figure some of these things out. So please reach out to one of those links with the university, reach out to us at SOE at vcu.edu, and please let us try to help you, or at least share in that process. And then the third and final point, and then we'll open it up for questions, is that there's a lot that we don't know. We had our Council of Deans meeting yesterday with the provost and all of the deans, and there's just a lot that we don't know. We're paying attention to the news. We're paying attention to issues obviously related to when the shelter-in-place order, when that will end. We're having conversations about when we reopen. How do we safely reopen? Are we going to need to do some type of test or screening before folks come back? I mean, there's just a lot that we don't know. And I'm sure as y'all are watching the news, you're seeing the impact that this shelter-in-place is having on the economy. The state of Virginia, we were doing fabulously well. But this is going to cost the state probably $1 billion or more, which is going to trickle down to us in the university. Now, under the Federal CARES Act, VCU got $20 million, and $10 million of that is specifically to support students in need, right? So we've got a pool of $10 million to support students in need. But in terms of, we know that summer is going to be remote instruction. We're planning for fall to be, we're planning to open back up in fall. But again, we don't know if that's going to be 100%, if we're going to be remote in the fall or face-to-face. We're planning and hoping for face-to-face, but again, we've got to pay attention to what's happening at the state level and listening to the health experts and the governor and that planning team. And so there are things that we just don't know. The one thing that we do know, and I know this as dean, and I feel comfortable saying this on behalf of myself, our associate deans, department chair, faculty, and the School of Ed. Although there's a lot that we don't know, what we do know is that we're going to be making our decisions. We're going to be making decisions that are responsible, compassionate, and that is couched in understanding, right? We understand that this is an unexpected and significant disruption. You know, we understand that people are going through, you know, very different experiences related to this. And I want you all to know that we are going to be making decisions from a place of compassion, from a place of understanding, but also from a place of what's responsible. And so let me just stop there, because I'm always at risk of rambling. But just in summary, we understand, we're here to help. There's a lot that we don't know, but we're going to be, you know, as we make decisions, we're really going to make decisions that will ensure that we're being compassionate and understanding to the situation of everyone involved. So I'll stop there, and I will turn it back over to Katie to facilitate any questions. I know some folks sent some questions in, and we've got the chat feature there where folks can also submit some additional questions. So Katie?
Great. Thank you so much, Dean Daire. We really appreciate you being available and accessible to us during this time. This situation definitely presents unique challenges for all of us, so we appreciate your support. We are going to open it up to questions for all those on the call first. If you have a question, again, as a reminder, feel free to use the raise your hand feature and we'll call on you in turn. You may also submit your questions directly to the chat area to pose to the Dean. And if you would like to send your question in anonymously, you're welcome to send me a private message as well. So we're going to give a few minutes to talk about questions that we have currently for those on the call. And then we also do have questions that have been submitted beforehand through the Google Forms. So if anyone on the call currently has a question, please feel free to ask.
I actually have a question.
Great, go ahead.
And I'm also online grad student, working on my, I'm in the code program, finishing my licensing requirements for my provisional license. So actively teaching AM, a lot of our assignments require, and it's a struggle with school being in, a lot of our assignments want to observe children and interview administration and, you know, the hard firm deadlines. And with us going to virtual learning, and I'll be honest, Loudon can't seem to make up their minds from one minute to the next. And it's been a very, like, 24-hour-a-day job, with things constantly changing. Will our professors be encouraged to provide some flexibility, some understanding with deadlines that we cannot access, you know, interviews and observation of children, and because these things are going to affect my classwork and my grades and getting everything accomplished before the end of next year when I have to have this done for my license.
You were cutting in and out, so I did not get your name, but also I'm unclear on the question. So maybe just because you were cutting out a little bit there.
My name is Dawn. And would it be easier if I type my question?
Sure, unless someone else heard it and can repeat it. Katie, I don't know if you got the question.
I did not hear the question. If you could type your question in the chat and then I'll pose it for you. In the meantime, while you're typing, we do have a question that was posed anonymously that asked, how will this affect GPA requirements for graduation? Oh, you're muted, Dean Daire.
I'm sorry, I was reading a question that was sent to me. Can you ask that question again? And then I'll go back to this one, sorry. Now you're muted.
Thank you.
This
How
is
will
like
this
real
affect
life right here.
exactly? How will this affect GPA requirements for graduation?
So students will have the option whether to do pass fail or to go with the grade, and or to go with, you know, the traditional grading that's been established for the course. My understanding, and I'm going to have Donna Gibson chime in if I'm wrong here, but my understanding, if students choose the pass-fail option, it's not going to, the pass is not going to impact the GPA, right? So if somebody gets a pass, that's not going to be calculated within their GPA, but if they get the fail, then that would be calculated within their GPA. Is that correct, Donna? And okay, I got a thumbs up and a nod. So right, so that's the answer to that question. So I think students do want to, you know, obviously, you know, take a look at your grades and make the decision that's going to work best for you. I know there was a question when we did this town hall yesterday with the undergraduate students that there were some delays in the evaluations, you know, or in some of the assignments. And so I think it'll be important to make sure that you communicate with your instructor if it's a case where there's some delays in some of the assignments or some of the grading, just to make sure that you communicate that with your instructor if you're going to need that information to make that decision.
Dean Daire, can I just add just a little bit? I see Brittany has posted something furthermore about graduation GPA requirements. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage everybody to talk with their advisors, because sometimes, and you can choose pass fail on separate courses. You don't have to choose pass fail on all of your courses this semester. So talking with your advisor, you can figure out it may be better to choose pass fail on this class, but this class I may choose the actual letter grade, as to how it will benefit you, especially around graduation requirements. So you need to know that you can choose that option per course. You do not have to choose it today. And I'm going to underscore that, because if you choose those options today, that is locked in per the form. That's what the form is saying. I would wait until the end of the semester and have that conversation with the instructors and the advisors, so you're choosing the best option for you. I hope that helps. And if you have more questions, you can shoot those to me at, and I'll type in my email too.
And Donna, there's another question which I'll need to defer to you, which is, when is the new deadline to defend for May graduation? The person heard that it's no longer April 28th, but hasn't seen anything via email. Is there a new deadline to defend for May graduation?
There was a new deadline, and I thought that information was sent out to all the doc students. It was extended until May, some date in May. Let me just verify that while we're in the Zoom, so I don't tell you some misinformation.
Okay, and you can just post that in the chat comment.
Yeah, I will.
And I see a question from Ian, with the hiring freeze coming down, you know, from the provost. How will this impact hiring in the School of Ed in terms of previous open positions and future professors? It is impacting us. We were going to move forward. 2 searches in teaching and learning, and 2 searches in special ed. With one of those in special ed where and I just drawing a blank on the terminology, but just having somebody continue for another year. For our associate dean for student affairs and inclusive excellence, when I introduced Dr. Diane Simon, I should have said she's the interim associate dean for student affairs and inclusive excellence. She was the previous senior associate dean for student affairs when I came in as dean, and she retired and was so gracious to come back this year to work with us as we're transitioning to this new position. But we've actually had to put that search on ice with the hiring freeze, but we're trying to explore seeing if we have a faculty member who could serve in that interim capacity. So we're really trying to see how we're going to be able to backfill that position for the upcoming year, for next fiscal year, which starts in June. And then our hope is once we have a better idea of where we are financially, which a lot of that is going to be based on fall enrollment, then my hope is that we're going to be able to reinitiate those searches. But the hiring freeze, in all honesty, is probably the least of the potential challenges from a fiscal standpoint. And we've got to pay attention to what's happening with the state, and we're all hoping that we're going to be able to come back to come back in fall in a, and I say traditional or regular format. I put that in quotes because I don't think things are going to be the way they were. I think we're going to see more people walking around in masks. I don't know if handshakes are now going to become a thing of the past. But if this prolongs into fall and we have to be remote in instruction in the fall, we're really concerned in terms of how that's going to affect fall enrollment, particularly for our new students, because many, they want to, they're choosing VCU because they want to be on campus and take courses and not necessarily be remote, and we're concerned that that's going to impact that. So again, it goes back to, part of my opening remarks, there's just a lot that we don't know, but our Dean's Cabinet, which is myself, associate deans, and department chairs and fiscal director, we normally meet every other week. We meet weekly now, and the budget and how we're going to be responding to this is central to that conversation. So thanks for that question, Ian.
There was a follow-up question sent privately in the chat that asked, how will the hiring freeze affect graduate assistantships?
It's a very good question. We discussed that in Dean's Cabinet on Monday, because I think we got the email about the hiring freeze, and it did include graduate assistants in that hiring freeze. However, we're able to request exceptions to that, but it's just too early for us to know how that's going to be impacted. We also know that graduate assistance is a very, on one hand, it's a specific term, but on another hand, it's a very general term, because you can have, you have grad assistants where you have doc grad assistantships that are awarded to doc students. You have grad assistants that are master students. So there's different levels of grad assistants. We'll have to pay attention to that. If they're talking about a hiring freeze, then at least the way I'm interpreting that is that folks who are currently on grad assistantships, that I'm not seeing how that would affect those because they're currently on grad assistantships, and that would be the argument that I would make. The concern I have is what about the grad assistants that, what about the grad assistantships that we're going to be offering or that we've offered to our doc students who are going to be coming in the fall semester. And I just can't imagine that we would make a decision when we're concerned about enrollment that would actually impede enrollment. So again, that's one of those issues that's very, very fresh. And so we're still figuring out how we're going to address that.
Thank you for responding to that question. Are there any other questions that would like to be posed before we go to some of the ones that were previously submitted on the Google form? Okay, great. While I ask the questions that were previously submitted on the Google form, if you do have any further questions, please submit them in the chat or raise your hand. So one of the questions that was asked ahead of time was, will classes during the summer be canceled if minimum enrollment numbers are not met? I'm concerned that I will fall behind with course sequencing if students do not enroll during the summer session.
Very, very good question. I had an hour-and-a-half meeting this morning with our finance director to really sit down and look, to provide some guidance to provide some more guidance to our department chairs in their decisions regarding class offerings. We obviously have to pay attention, with the fiscal situation. Part of that hiring freeze is for adjuncts. And I know we have courses that are taught in the summer by adjuncts. And so one of the things that we're doing is already beginning to build the case or the argument for an exception so that we would be able to hire adjuncts. Not to get too far in the weeds, but when, a 9-month faculty teaches a course, part of that part of the cost on our side is that's based on a percentage of that faculty member's salary, where when we pay an adjunct, that usually is a lot less than that cost. We also have to pay attention to the class size. We have to pay attention to where, to the, if that's a required course that's going to throw students off on their program completion trajectory. And so these are all the decisions that, these are some of the factors that are going to weigh, in that decision regarding the classes. Now, also mentioned in terms of, that we've got to make decisions that are responsible, but we also have to make decisions from a place of compassion and understanding. And obviously, program completion, additional cost if things are going to delay students a semester. I mean, all of those things are critically important in this decision. Our department chairs and faculty may need to make some decisions, particularly in sections and potentially combining sections of courses to ensure that we can offer those courses. But those are all decisions that we're going to be making. I know we've got to get this figured out in the next few weeks because, we're going to be running up on the deadline in terms of issuing summer contracts. And so we have to know what courses we're going to teach. And know who's going to teach those courses, and then we have to issue those contracts, knowing that we're going to have to request an exemption because of the hiring freeze. So we're going to, hope to have that information within the next few weeks.
Great, thank you very much for your response to that question. The next question is, will we still have to pay online classroom fees considering all classes prior to July have been moved online for the summer?
That is one that I'm going to say that I don't know. I believe a decision has been made. And there was some communications on that from the Provost Office, and I know my special assistant Aaron sent it to me, and I'm trying to search to see if I can find it, and I can't find that. I'm going to ask Aaron. Aaron, if you had sent me a summary of the different communications we received from the Provost Office related to students. If you could just take a look at that regarding if students are going to be charged additional fees for the online courses. And if you could just chime in or maybe just post to let us know if you have an answer or if we don't have an answer to that from some of the previous communication from the Provost Office. And if we don't have an answer, we'll find that answer and we'll send it out to you all.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have the email pulled up now, and the Provost sent that on April 3rd, talking about courses in summer 2020. Beginning before July 9th, we'll all move to remote. Sessions that begin on July 9th and July 20th will maintain their currently scheduled format. Looking at fees, it says VCU is pleased to announce discounted per credit hour rates on select mandatory fees for summer 2020 only. The university fee will be discounted by 50% from $57 per credit hour to $26. And the online fee of $55 per credit hour, capped at three credit hours, will be waived for the summer session. So does that information answer the question?
Yes, it does. Fantastic. And I know we're going to send out a summary at the end of this call or the end of this town hall. And I know the information in that email that Aaron talked about, we'll send that out. But Aaron, for now, if you can just kind of cut and paste that and put it in the chat
Sure.
So that folks can have that available. Thank you so much, Aaron.
You're very welcome.
Great, thank you both for your responses. The next question is, I will be finished with all my coursework in July. The only thing I am missing is the RVE and the VCLA testing. With all the testing centers closed, how would I be able to complete the program for my license?
I think I'm going to have to defer to either Dr. Simon or Dr. Gibson on that, because I wouldn't know that level of detail with those assessments. You're still on mute. Okay, there you go.
I'd be happy to contact Joan because I don't have that information. Do you, Donna?
I'm sorry, what was the specific assessments again?
VCLA and Katie, what was the other one? You're on mute.
Thank you. The question asked, I will be finished with all my coursework in July. The only thing I'm missing is the RVE and VCLA testings. With the testing centers closed, how would I be able to complete the program for my license?
Yeah, I would defer that to June.
Yeah.
June?
June or Joan, but I will contact her and then I'll put an answer on the chat.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Dr. Simon.
Thank you very much. The final question that was posed ahead of time was, do we anticipate academic calendar shifts for the 2021 school year? What are implications of our new reality on graduate student travel funding for the upcoming school year? So this is a two-part question.
Yeah, good question. So at Council of Deans, we talked about that. And again, that falls in that category. That falls in the category of things that we don't know yet. One of the, we had a long conversation on when we reopen for the fall. What we do know, or it sounds like, it's not just going to be a traditional reopening, everybody comes back and business as usual. The conversation is around what type of, is there some type of testing or screening, I guess I should say screening, that we need to do for faculty and staff and students before folks come back, right? Because we know we do not have a vaccine for the COVID-19. There's not been broad-based testing, so we know that without the broad-based testing that there are, you know, folks who are asymptomatic, but can still, you know, they're asymptomatic, but they can still pass that virus on. And so we've got to be very mindful in terms of how folks come back, that we're not creating a situation where we now have kind of a hot spot, you know, to where now we have somewhat of a hot spot within VCU. So that conversation then led to, well, if we're going to need to do some type of a screening, you know, are we going to have to adjust the calendar to where we may need to start the semester, you know, push it forward? Is it push it up? It's not. I get confused when you push something up or down on a calendar, but if we're going to move things forward 2 weeks and then take a week off, you know, remove a week from winter break and come back a week early. So those are some of the conversations that is occurring at the university level, so that we can be prepared to respond once we have information from the governor and other health experts regarding when the shelter in place is over and how we can best and most safely return. So to answer the question, we don't know right now, but that is part of the contingency planning that is happening at the university level. Is what if we're going to have to push the calendar forward 2 weeks? What I can tell you is if we push that 2 weeks, you know, folks who are slated to graduate, any decision or calendar adjustments that are going to be made will made in a manner that's not going to disrupt someone who is, you know, you know, on a path to finishing the fall semester. So if there's a delay, there's no conversation that I've heard of or been a part of that's talking about any kind of a late start that would then, you know, cause somebody to have to finish in the spring. If there's a late start, we're going to need to make sure that folks who are slated to finish in the fall will finish in the fall. Did that answer the question?
Yes, I believe so. If anyone else on the call asked this question, if they would like to elaborate, you can do so now. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question that was sent privately in the chat was, for May graduates, are we going to participate in December graduation since there will be no virtual graduation on May 8th?
So the university is working on a virtual graduation, and I may ask Owen or Aaron to jump in on this, but I don't think that's going to be in place of May graduates having the opportunity to walk in December. So the conversations, and I think this was the last communication I saw from President Rao, is that our May graduates are going to have the opportunity to walk and participate in the December commencement. But folks who are slated to graduate will graduate, and that we will have a virtual graduation. I had to, you know, record some remarks for that. So I know they're working on that. Owen, I don't know if you have an update on where that is, that process.
I don't, if you can hear me, but no update, but that is correct. They're working on a virtual commencement website that will launch May 8th. The School of Education is we're planning to produce our school's version of recognizing those graduates somehow, and all of them will have a chance to be a part of the December commencement to be formally recognized.
Great.
And I'll just chime in here and say that a missive will be going out to all eligible graduates before the end of the week, sort of summarizing what the School of Education's plans are, and also encouraging graduates to submit, I think they're like 2-minute video snippets to participate in the university's virtual commencement. So that information will be coming out, so just be on the lookout for that.
Great, thanks.
Great, thank you for answering those questions. At this time, if anyone would like to unmute their microphones to pose a question, please do so now. We have a few minutes remaining.
Hi, this is Nicole Torres. I actually did have a question. I had gotten information saying that because my GA is 9 month and so I'm rehired every 9 months for the semester, that my GA is actually not going to happen if the hiring freeze continues. So people or the students who have to sign up every 9 months or every year, that paperwork, will that be considered, you know, will those GAs disappear, or will those GAs be considered current? Like you had said, like the GAs won't go away.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And you know, that decision for the hiring freeze is made at the provost level, and we're going to have to make requests for any exceptions to that. But that's an area that I would strongly advocate for, because I know our GAs, you know, I'm not aware, and there could be out there, but I'm not aware of any independently wealthy doc students that we have. I think most all of our GAs, they need that support. And just know that and not just I, but I know Dr. Gibson and others will be advocating strongly to make sure that that our GAs continue to get their funding. One of the decisions that we made this year is and not to get too much into the financial weeds, but we have our what's called E&G accounts, which are the state dollars and the university dollars, and then we also have our development dollars, which is our fundraising dollars, where we do have a fair amount of scholarships. And one of the decisions that we made this year was that half of the support from our GAs are going to come from our development dollars. So any type of a freeze would be on the E&G dollars. And so, if if we needed to I don't want to use the word raid, but it would be a raid. But if we needed to look more towards our development dollars to ensure that we can maintain GA positions, we would do that. So I don't have a final decision on that, unfortunately. With the university level hiring freeze, I'll have to advocate for that. But Nicole, please know that we are going to be advocating strongly to make sure that that we continue to support our 9-month and our 12-month grad assistants.
And I would say, Nicole, if your assistantship is not in our school, and you may have already done that because it sounds like you're an advocate, self-advocate, that reach out to the director of who has hired you, what office, just to make sure this is on their radar, and maybe find out what their plans are for advocating for those hires.
And thanks for saying that, Donna, because when I heard the question, I was just thinking solely in terms of the grad assistants that we support here within the school. So I think that's very good advice to really check with those folks. Now, there are also folks who are on grant-funded grad assistantships, and I don't believe, and Donna, I'm kind of looking at you to see if you do this or this, but I don't believe grant-funded well, we've been informed that grant-funded positions are not subject to the hiring freeze, and so I would interpret that as grant-funded grad assistantships also would not be subject to the hiring freeze. So I think it really depends on where your assistantship is housed. But I would. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. And I would say that sometimes this get a little complicated because there may be a combination of funds, whether it's ENG and grant from the centers. So again, we're sort of checking in on all of those. And again, we're working sort of with this new information around the freezes. So we're doing everything we can do to make sure we're covering folks that we have been covering or have the intention to cover.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions before we wrap up today?
Katie, is it appropriate for me to give the answer to the VRA and VCLA question?
Please do, thank you.
I talked with Dr. Joan Johnson. She's the Director of Licensure and Accreditation. And she says that this should be considered on a program-by-program basis, and that the person who has the question should contact her by email at jbjohnson@vcu.edu. And she will talk with them about their specific program and what the requirements are.
And that's JB Johnson. Okay.
JB Johnson.
Thanks, Corey. I was trying to type it. So we just posted that email, and that's Dr. Joan Johnson, and she oversees licensure and accreditation. So please contact her regarding that.
Wonderful. Are there any other final questions? Okay. Dean Daire, thank you again for hosting this virtual town hall today, and to all the students taking part, thank you for joining us and posing your questions. If you have any more questions or you didn't get to pose your question, the team at VCU School of Education is here to help. Please feel free to email the School of Education or reach out to Corey Humphrey or Meredith Mello. They will connect you with the best resources. These emails and names are listed in the chat box for you. Also, just in case you missed the announcement at the beginning, we will plan to post a recording of the virtual town hall as soon as we are able to. So if you missed any of this, a full recording will be available. As you heard from the Dean, the School of Education, faculty, and staff are genuinely here to support you in any way and to help all of us navigate through this challenging time. Don't think twice about reaching out to the resources and email addresses listed in the chat box if you need any help. Thank you again, everyone. It's great to see you all. Please stay home and be safe, and we look forward to seeing you all in Oliver Hall when it's safe to return. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks so much, Katie.